Hello, BookTube. I know I said that my number of videos today might be minimal, and I know that you're all taking that with soldierly stoicism, but I couldn't leave out the first mail haul of the week, and it's been staring at me, so we got a small package here, no boxes. Let's go oh no, there is a box. It's a thin box, though, it hardly counts. I know one thing that I would very much like to be in this pile, but I don't want to jinx things, so let's see what the first one is. The Grove Atlantic. Oh no, it's a made-up story. Okay, this is going to be a paperback original. Comes out in early October. This is The Girl at the Door by Veronica Ramo. Did we see this already? Is this a finished copy? No, this is not. Okay, well, what have we got here? This is... Oh, God, it's okay. Whoever the publicist is for this thing earned their pay with the first line of their pub sheet. This is the first post-Weinstein novel. This is Veronica Ramo's slim, powerful English-language debut, and it leaves no one blameless in an unflinching story of lust, power, and betrayal. While on vacation on an idyllic island called Meaden, a seemingly aimless woman meets an attractive man and leaves her country to be with him. A few months later, newly pregnant and just beginning to feel comfortable in her lover's space, her life is upended when a girl arrives at the door. Slight and pretty, she discloses a drawn-out and violent affair she's had with her professor, the father of the woman's unborn child. Okay, so this is a book about doubt, its fascination and fear. In an age enthralled with the theatrics of cancel culture and righteous internet rage, the author delivers a timeless exploration of power and sex in the public eye. And the first half of that sentence cancels out the second half, because if it's talking about cancel culture, it's not timeless. But that's okay. We'll see what the book itself is. So this author, I guess, is known in Italy. Those of you who are in Italy, do you know this author? This is her English-language debut. She's the author of 2 novels published in Italy and a collection of short stories published in Germany. Good Lord. She contributes regularly to Rolling Stone and wrote the script for Sleeping Beauty by Marco Bellaccio. She's translated from English to Italian such writers as F. Scott Fitzgerald, Octavia Butler, Ian Sinclair, Vikram Seth, and others, and she lives in Rome. Okay, so she is a really good literary resume, and we'll just see. We'll just see what this book does. This is early October, and it's going to be a paperback original, so it's going to look just like this. I don't need to worry about it. I am. Oh my God, OMG, I am up to my eyeballs in September books, so even October I'm mostly leaving out, except for certain Austrian princes. So this next one has an airmail sticker on it. And as you know, if you watch this channel, I am regularly policing the whole of the American new release scene. I read more American new releases than anyone else in the world, but I don't go overseas, so this is from one of you. This is a gift from one of you, I'd be willing to bet. And that means it was probably expensive. I have tried to make clear on this channel that the books go in one direction only. They go from me to you. But it doesn't seem to work. So what have we got here? Oh, no, maybe I'm wrong. This would just be an overseas book. Well, let's find out, shall we? Instead of me cogitating. Dear Steve, I'm writing to you from a Birmingham-based small press called Splice to send you a forthcoming book by Greg Gerke, which he asked me to forward to you. Oh, so the author got in touch with me and said, can my publisher send you a book? Those of you who are small press or indie press authors, overseas presses too, if they'll spring for it, my answer is absolutely yes. Absolutely do that. I guarantee that I will read whatever I'm sent. I read everything I'm sent. And I can almost certainly guarantee that I will do this. That I will open the book on camera, describe it to an audience that, I don't even know the number, is a couple hundred people per video maybe, and that I will show it to them. The one thing I can't guarantee is that I'll review it. But anything else, and that's, I've had publicists tell me, well, that's more than enough, thank you. So that's what must have happened here. The author must have got in touch with me. Let's see. I don't know if you're familiar with Greg's work, but he's a prolific essayist, and See What I See is something like his magnum opus. That's what this book is. See What I See from Splice in Birmingham, where I've been many times and will never now be again. So this is his magnum opus. Okay. Obviously, putting the elbow grease into a small press, I'd be thrilled if you found some time to spend with the book and say something about it. This is an ARC. We're still gathering blurbs ahead of publication in October. But first and foremost, on behalf of Greg and Splice, I hope you enjoy the book. How wonderful! How wonderful! All right, so let's see what this is. So, all right, so we learned from that the book comes out in October. Let's see what it is about. This is what the ARC looks like. That obviously not what the finished copy is going to look like. I hope if they're in Birmingham, then they're not American. If they're not American, then they're not contract bound to have an ugly book. They might have a pretty looking book. Let's see here. What does it mean today to experience a work of art? In a culture of triviality and cynicism, at the mercy of a zeitgeist that prizes the superfluous and ephemeral, where can we turn in search of the genuine, the sincere, the truly accomplished? Not Twitter. That's where I go for those things. And even if we were to find these things, would we know how to acknowledge their value? The 30 essays in See What I See are the fruits of a lifetime spent grappling with these questions. By turns lyrical and arch, nostalgic and impassioned, gnomic and piercingly insightful, they seek answers in the achievements of the masters as well as less likely places. Now I gotta know who. Let's skip to the who. Along with giants like Rilke and Woolf, Gertrude Stein and William Gass, Ingmar Bergman and Stanley Kubrick, well, no list is perfect, right? Gurkha touchstones include relationships on the rocks, the wreckage of one night's lust, desire, heartache, confusion, naivete, the beauty of spoken voice, and the persistent longing for a lasting connection with someone or something meaningful. Wow. Okay. Fantastic. So this is a collection of essays that ranges all over. It sounds like there's quite a bit of literary stuff here to give those of you who maybe essay averse a little familiar ground under your feet. Fantastic. Okay. So this comes out in October from Splice. Those of you in the UK will have a much easier time getting this. I'd be willing to bet from the sound of that pub sheet or that letter here that Splice does not have an American distributor. So I'm glad to see this. Otherwise, I might never have done it. So this is See What I See, a collection of essays. So we're off to a roaring start, and you can just ignore the admonition, the finger-waving admonition that I gave you about not sending me stuff. Let's see what the next one is. Oh, fantastic. Oh, great. Okay, this comes out October 1st. I have just the reviewer in mind for this. This is nature-related nonfiction. It has a blurb on the cover from Cy Montgomery, and the book is called How to Catch a Mole. You may have seen the advanced copy. This is by Mark Hamer. Yeah, let's read a little about this, shall we? I think I know just the reviewer for this book. Kneeling in a muddy field, clutching something soft and blue-black, Mark Hamer vows he will stop trapping moles forever. In this tender, masterful work of nonfiction literature, the mole catcher shares what led him to this strange career, from sleeping amongst trees as a homeless teenager, to toiling on a railway, to weeding windswept gardens in Wales. Hamer infuses his wanderings with radiantly poetic and stark, simple observations on nature's oft-ignored details. He reveals how to catch a mole, a trade long kept secret by its masters, and burrows into the unusual lives of his muses. Moles, we learn, hold unusual amounts of carbon dioxide in their blood, just like Deb. If they are cut, they may bleed to death. Their vast tunnel networks are intricate and cunningly built, and like Hamer, they work alone. And Cy Montgomery, who's the author of The Soul of the Octopus, says, an extraordinary book. I've read no other like it. Thank goodness Mark Hamer stopped killing moles and sat down to write. Fantastic. Wonderful. All right, so this is due on October 1st from Greystone Books. I would say that I'm certainly going to review it, but I have my eye on someone else doing it. So if they don't, I will. That sounds fantastic. Wonderful. All right, so let's move on. I'm going to move around here and leave the box for last, even though the box is skinny. So oh, goodness gracious. Okay. This particular reviewer might have a lot of work to do. Okay, this is due in mid-September. This is by Lars Svensson, and it is called Understanding Animals, Philosophy for Dog and Cat Lovers. I think we have a siren coming on here. Bear with me. What have we got here? Is this translated? This is from the University of Chicago Press. No translator listed. Maybe Lars did his own translating. I'll look it up while a screaming siren goes on in the background. Oh, no, it is. It's translated from the Norwegian by Matt Bagley. So this came out last year, 2018. Okay, so this is Understanding Animals, and it has cats and dogs posing on the cover. How do animals perceive the world? What does it really feel like to be a dog or a cat? In Understanding Animals, Lars Svensson delves into animal communication, intelligence, self-awareness, loneliness, and grief. But most fundamentally, how humans and animals can cohabit and build a form of friendship. Svensson provides examples from many different animal species, from chimpanzees to octopus, but his main focus is on cats and dogs, the animals that many of us are closest to in our daily lives. Drawing upon both philosophical analysis and the latest scientific discoveries, the author argues that the knowledge we glean from our relationships with our pets is as valid and insightful as any scientific study on human-animal relations. I'd agree with that. I always think it's a terrible shame when stuff like our daily interaction with dogs and cats is just written off with the word anecdotal. I never think that's fair. Wow, okay. All right, Understanding Cats and Dogs goes right next to How to Catch a Mole. So let's move on. This next one here is one of these adhesive cardboard things. You have to tear it apart because the inside is sticky. So it's not just enough just to get the book out. If you don't want everything sticking to it, you have to tear the package apart. Alright, that ought to do. What have we got here? Oh my, okay, this is another paperback original. Yeah, this is another $16 paperback original. We saw the advanced copy of this. This is going to be brutal to read. I haven't read it yet. It's, I think, an October book, so I just haven't got to it. But this is, yeah, October 1st. This is another piece of translated literature. This is I Will Never See the World Again by Ahmet Altan, who was put in jail forever. He was put in jail for life for writing, an independently minded opinion piece. And this is he's a well-respected and internationally beloved author who we saw on this channel before his prison term. Europa Edition is coming out with his 4-volume historical epic of historical fiction. And we got the first volume of those. Of that, I don't think it's going to continue, but we got the first volume on this channel. And then he was in prison for life. There's probably, this one is probably loaded with blurbs. Neil Gaiman has one. J.M. Coetzee. Most of the well-known authors of the Western world have written letters and pleas and whatnot to change this guy's sentence to get him released. Let's see. Oh, this has a lot of blurbs as well, but this will probably tell us something about. Yeah, in July of 2016, amidst a wave of nationalist forces reasserting power around the world, 69-year-old Turkish writer and novelist Ahmet Altan was detained following a failed coup against the Turkish president, whose foremost fan on the international stage is the President of the United States. Sentenced to life imprisonment without parole for sending subliminal messages in support of the coup during a televised broadcast. How'd you like that? How'd you like to make a case that you didn't do that? Altan was among thousands detained by the Turkish government with little or no credible evidence of wrongdoing. A Turkey that had once embodied an air of progressivism and was considered a potential EU member was suddenly undergoing a dramatic reversion back to authoritarianism. So do we have, compiled over months while serving his life sentence, the short chapters that comprise this book were contained among personal notes Ahmet Altan transmitted to his lawyers and were later released one by one, and are here rendered in a stunning translation. And then there are lots and lots of blurbs for the author, lots and lots of voices of solidarity. A very depressing subject, even under the best of circumstances. I am familiar with that progressive Turkey. I spent a lot of time in that country that was looking forward into the world instead of backwards and into itself. And that would be depressing enough, anyway, to encounter this book. I haven't read it. I will. It'll be an October book. I won't read it in September, but it's all the worse. It's all the worse. Books like this are rendered worse when you realize, if you're an American and you read this book and you realize we're the bad guys now. The President of the United States has sent many, many messages of solidarity and brotherhood to the merciless, free speech-crushing dictator of Turkey. And not only that, but you and I know perfectly well that if the details of this case were brought to Donald Trump's attention, at the end he'd say, well, I don't know, it kind of looks like me like he deserved it. I mean, lots of people say that subliminal messages are real. I don't know. A lot of people tell me that maybe he deserves to be locked up. No matter what the circumstance, his sympathy is always with the storm, the earthquake, the cop who shoots a kid in the head, the dictator. And that just makes this worse. You want to be on the right side of that question, and we're not. That's depressing. All right, but that's an October book, so we're going to move along. Now we have two of these white envelopes. These are usually finished copies, and that could mean September stuff. I'm reading all the September books because I am remiss. Okay, yeah, this is a September book. Yep. Okay, great. We saw this already. We saw the advanced copy of this. This is Stephen Price's book, Lampedusa. Those of you who have not read The Leopard, the novel The Leopard, you really need to. Feel free, if you haven't read The Leopard, to take 3 weeks to teach yourself Italian and then read it in the original. But even if you can't, if you don't want to take those 3 weeks, read it in a translation. It's a great book. And this is, if I remember correctly, I have not got to this. I remember correctly, this is about that. Lampedusa is an evocative story of the writing of a classic called The Leopard. It's a novel of exquisite emotional force about love and art in the life of Giuseppe Tomasi, the author of The Leopard, and is reminiscent of Comte Tobin's The Master. Great. Okay, so this is obviously meant to be sort of a companion. I mean, it'd be really nice if Farrar, Straus and Giroux reissued The Leopard, or if somebody did, to go along with this, but I think this is probably going to... I mean, it's due on the pub date is September 17th. I don't know how strict that is, but I have a feeling this will probably be reviewed in a couple of the usual suspects. The Historical Novel Review, where I used to be an editor, or a couple of other places, half-page reviews or 400-word reviews or something like that. Once upon a time, 30 years ago, if you'd published a book like this, it would have had a much bigger built-in audience because the American reading public was a little more literate and most of them knew about The Leopard. I don't know that that's true now, so we shall see. I'm hoping, I have high hopes that I will really enjoy it. And then we have another one of these white ones, and then we'll do the box. This could be another finished copy. Oh no, okay, it's another finished copy with the exact same book. Oh, that's depressing. Oh. So, I've got a double, and then we'll move on to the box, which is thin. So, I'm not getting my hopes up for any 800-page biography. Let's see what we have here. This will be a finished copy. Oh, it is. Oh, fantastic. Okay, we saw this already. This is by a fantastic author, and this is a September book. Yeah, but I have not got to it. These finished copies are a kick in the pants. This is Michael Schmidt, who did a book, a gigantic book called The Novel, a biography that you really ought to get out of your library or find a used copy or something like that. It is an absolute treasure trove. It's Michael Schmidt talking about the history of the novel and going all the way back to Roman times and earlier than that. And this is a much smaller thing. This is his book about Gilgamesh, the life of a poem. So you have just a wonderful, a guy who really knows how to write engagingly about literature, writing about the oldest literature of all. Gilgamesh is the most ancient long poem known to exist. It is also the newest classic in the canon of world literature, lost for centuries in the sands of the Middle East, but found again in the 1850s. It tells the story of a great king, his heroism, and his eventual defeat. Schmidt describes how the poem is a work in progress even now, an undertaking that has drawn on the talents and obsessions of an unlikely cast of characters. It's going to be known to most of you from Star Trek The Next Generation. And in this one instance, I'm not complaining. Star Trek The Next Generation went on for, I think, 22 years of mind-numbing, tooth-grinding tedium. But in that entire length, it had probably 4 really good moments, 4 moments that were Star Trek, instead of just endless committee discussions. And one of those moments is, you're all going to know what I'm talking about, one of those moments was Captain Picard and the captain of an alien vessel talking in stories. The Federation translator does not translate this captain's language, and that this captain's people only speak in stories, in cultural mythology and novels and whatnot. Picard has to learn a lot of the terms from this captain's culture in order to talk with him. And if you watch that episode as many times as I have, you will start to know those terms. And in exchange, Captain Picard wants to tell this captain a story from Earth, and he tells the story of Gilgamesh. And Patrick Stewart does a very good job. Not often that you will hear me say that about The Next Generation, but nevertheless, there are about 4 of those moments in the entire course of the show, and that's one of them. But this is, I haven't read this yet, but I already know this author is a known quantity to me. He is wonderful. So there you go. That is our mail haul in this odd lighting here. We have Gilgamesh, the story of a poem. Then we have 2 copies of Lampedusa. So all of you out there who maybe like historical fiction, maybe one of you has read The Leopard and really likes it, and maybe you've always harbored a secret desire to write a book review, you now know that I have a double. I'd be happy to send it to you. Then we have I Will Never See the World Again, Ahmet Altan's prison memoir. Let's hope he's wrong about that. I really hope he's wrong about that. A regime change in Turkey. It's one massive movement away. We saw that in Arab Spring. Arab Spring didn't work, but it showed how vulnerable all of these dictatorships are. All it takes, that wall is so thin, you can just put your hand through it. And then the dictator of Turkey will be gone. That whole region has seen it countless times. So it's possible. It's possible. Then understanding animals, philosophy for dog and cat lovers, how to catch a mole, an ex-mole catcher, not only tells you the secrets of his filthy former profession, but also gives you a natural history of moles. Then See What I See by Greg Gerke from a small publisher in Birmingham. And The Girl at the Door, the first post-Weinstein novel. So that's it. That is our first mail haul of the week. No matter how skimpy I am with videos, I couldn't not do that, could I? As I've been told, you're all spoiled, and you are. So that's your first mail haul of the week, and I will stop this now, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.